from near drug overdoses.
I called my pain doctor and told him what I did. He goes, take that shit off your legs. That's how people overdose.
Two enemies who wanted him dead. Hulk Hogan faced more danger than most. But the real cause of his death wasn't drugs or a hit. It's something far more tragic. And when you find out what really happened, it might just break your heart. The hidden truth behind the medical nightmare that killed the Hulkster. For months, wrestling fans around the world have been told a simple story, that the legendary Hulkster passed away from cardiac arrest at age 71 on July 24, 2025. But what if I told you that the official cause of death was cardiac arrest, which occurred at his home around 9:51 a.m., and that this was just the surface of a much darker, more sinister truth? The real story begins not with his final moments, but with decades of medical negligence, botched surgeries, and a healthcare system that systematically failed one of wrestling's greatest icons. On July 24, 2025, at approximately 9:51 a.m., emergency services responded to Hulk Hogan's home in Clearwater, Florida, following what authorities described as a cardiac arrest call.
Just before 10 a.m. today, Clearwater Fire and Rescue, along with the Clearwater Police Department, responded to a house in the 1000 block of El Dorado Avenue for a medical-related call. It was discovered at that time Terry Bollea, also known as Hulk Hogan, was experiencing a serious medical-related issue. Personnel provided medical treatment at that time and transported Mr. Bollea to Morton Plant Hospital, where he died at 11:17 a.m.
The mainstream media presented this as a straightforward medical emergency. He was rushed to Morton Plant Hospital and pronounced dead at approximately 11:17 a.m., with authorities ruling out foul play.
The Clearwater Police Department is conducting a death investigation, which is standard in these types of cases. There are no signs of foul play or suspicious activity related to this call for service at this time.
But here's where the story takes its first dark turn. Multiple sources now suggest that this wasn't the sudden, unexpected tragedy we were led to believe. Instead, it was the inevitable conclusion of what medical experts are calling a tragedy of neglect that had been building for over a decade. Just weeks before his death, there had been swirling rumors about Hogan's declining health. His wife, Sky Daly, had been forced to deny reports that he was in a coma, stating on Instagram that his heart is strong and there was never any lack of oxygen or brain damage following a neck surgery in May 2025. The public was told he was recovering well, that there was no cause for panic. Yet behind the scenes, a much more sinister story was unfolding, one that involves medical malpractice, unnecessary surgeries, and a healthcare system that may have systematically destroyed the body of one of America's most beloved sports entertainers. The truth is that Hulk Hogan's death wasn't just a tragic case of an aging athlete's body giving out. It was the culmination of decades of medical mistakes, botched procedures, and what can only be described as systematic medical abuse that turned the once mighty Hulkster into a broken shell of his former self. Let me take you back to 2013, when the first red flag should have been raised. Hogan filed a $50 million medical malpractice lawsuit against the Laser Spine Institute, alleging that between February 2009 and August 2010, he underwent 6 unnecessary endoscopic procedures. The lawsuit revealed disturbing details about how the institute used scare tactics to dissuade him from a recommended traditional spinal surgery, pushing him instead toward less invasive treatments that provided only temporary relief lasting a few weeks each. Even more shocking was the allegation that the institute's founder, James St. Louis, had a substantial ownership interest that wasn't disclosed, suggesting financial motives over medical necessity. The Laser Spine Institute's predatory practices didn't stop with Hogan. The facility was eventually shut down in 2019 after facing dozens of malpractice lawsuits and paying out almost $500 million in damages. One Pennsylvania woman died hours after being discharged from their surgery center, resulting in a $20 million wrongful death settlement. The institute was also caught offering illegal incentives to patients, such as paying for their airfare and hotel expenses, which is prohibited under Medicare guidelines. But here's where the story becomes even more tragic. Hogan eventually underwent traditional fusion surgery in December 2010 and was able to return to work after 3 months, proving that the earlier interventions had been not just unnecessary, but actively harmful. The Laser Spine Institute case was eventually settled out of court for a high 7-figure to low 8-figure amount, reportedly over $10 million. The pattern of medical negligence didn't end there. Throughout his final years, Hogan underwent what sources describe as over 25 surgeries in the last decade alone.
Also pain management.
Yeah, that's a whole nother trip, brother, because I've had 25 surgeries in the last 10 years. So when people say, hey, the wrestling's fake, it goes right up.
In May 2025, he had a 4-level anterior cervical discectomy fusion surgery on his neck, initially described by his team as minor, but complications arose that would prove to be the beginning of the end. What the public wasn't told was that post-surgery, Hogan was reportedly intubated, experiencing renal failure, fluid overload, and severe COPD. According to insider reports, he was treated at Tampa General Hospital and sent home when further interventions were limited. Former manager Jimmy Hart and others noted he couldn't speak, suggesting adverse reactions that his representatives desperately tried to downplay. The most chilling revelation comes from what sources describe as leaked autopsy findings. While no autopsy was required by law, the Pinellas County Medical Examiner's report allegedly highlighted severe internal trauma from wrestling injuries, including chronic inflammation, unaddressed nerve compression, undiagnosed internal bleeding, degeneration in his spine and lower back, and scar tissue buildup. Medical experts reviewing these findings described Hogan's survival to 71 as a miracle, given what they called the tragedy of neglect. Cardiologists noted that early intervention could have extended his life, with some sources tying the cardiac arrest directly to complications from the May 2025 neck surgery. But perhaps the most damning evidence comes from Hogan's own final months. Despite clear warning signs, he refused further medical intervention, opting for alternative treatments like CBD oils and acupuncture. He had sworn off additional surgeries or hospital visits, and reportedly skipped a scheduled cardiology appointment. The tragic irony is that this was entirely preventable. His wife, Sky Daly, denied rumors of serious issues just weeks before his death, insisting his heart was strong and he was recovering well. Yet reports suggest he collapsed alone in his home gym during a workout, a detail that adds another layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking story. What makes this story even more infuriating is the pattern of denial and cover-up that surrounded Hogan's final months. In June 2025, false rumors spread claiming Hogan was on his deathbed, paralyzed or in a coma, sparked by radio hosts like Bubba the Love Sponge. His representatives vehemently denied these claims, but we now know they were closer to the truth than anyone wanted to admit. And it turns out that this wasn't the only time medical malpractice had almost claimed Hulk Hogan's life. The untold story of pain pills and a body pushed beyond breaking point. If you thought the medical malpractice was shocking, what I'm about to reveal about Hulk Hogan's battles with pain and addiction will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the price of fame in professional wrestling. This isn't just about a man who took too many painkillers. This is about a systematic destruction of the human body that was enabled, encouraged, and ultimately covered up by an industry that profits from human suffering. The story begins with a number that should terrify anyone who steps into a wrestling ring. Hogan underwent at least 25 surgeries in the last decade of his life, with 10 of those being back surgeries alone. But these weren't routine procedures. They were desperate attempts to repair a body that had been systematically destroyed by decades of what Hogan himself called not getting the memo that this stuff was fake.
How much pain are you in right now?
Everything hurts, just like it's hard to explain. Like if I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm leaning on the counter brushing my teeth, I can't push away.
To understand the depth of Hogan's suffering, you need to understand what wrestling did to his body. His signature leg drop move, performed over 300 times a year during his peak, created repeated trauma to his lower back and tailbone. As Hogan himself admitted, all the back surgeries I've had are because of that leg drop. Dropping that leg for 35 years did me in.
So all those years dropping that leg in those rings, with the board sticking up or laying on my tailbone, oh my God, what was that, a rock in the ring? Oh my God, was that a board sticking up? All those years dropping the leg, I would have changed that, and I would have never dropped the leg.
But the physical destruction was just the beginning. What followed was a descent into pharmaceutical hell that nearly killed him multiple times. Hogan described his painkiller addiction as entering a vicious cycle, with doctors writing prescription after prescription, particularly intense around 2017 to 2018, when he couldn't function without them. The fentanyl story is where this nightmare reaches its peak. Fentanyl, noted by the CDC as 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine, was prescribed because Hogan had developed such a high tolerance to other opioids. The results were catastrophic.
And the pharmacist says, I've never seen anybody on so much fentanyl and still be alive. And so that was the prescription they were giving me because my back was so bad. They cut on me so much and compromised the structural integrity of my back by cutting so much bone away that I was just a mess,
In an interview on The Joe Rogan Experience, Hogan detailed how doctors, responding to his high tolerance for morphine after numerous surgeries, prescribed fentanyl. This decision nearly killed him, as he described experiencing severe physical reactions that required EMT intervention.
And then there was one night when, I don't know what I was taking. I guess they had me on the fentanyl things you stick up under your gums, and the patches on my legs, and the lollipops. Remember one night my body just completely torqued, and my head and shoulders were facing the opposite way. And it took a bunch of EMTs to get me out of the house.
The dosage was staggering. 150 milligram patches on his legs, 280 fentanyl pills to be placed under his gums morning and night, and 15 lollipops containing 1,500 milligrams each to eat during the day. A dosage that would kill most people. The insurance didn't cover it, costing $2,000 every 2 days, but the physical cost was far higher. The withdrawal symptoms Hogan described read like something from a horror movie. Violent sleep, flailing where he injured himself, waking up with his body twisted and head opposite to shoulders, hallucinations of his wife's teeth falling out and talking to him, sweating through bed and mattress multiple times, and losing 35 pounds. This wasn't just addiction, this was chemical torture.
And I sweated through the bed, all the way through the mattress and stuff several times. I had people come in and check on me, and I saw my ex-wife's teeth come out and talk to me. I saw a plastic squirt gun come out of her chest, and this is coming off the fentanyl.
But fentanyl wasn't his only battle. The sheer scope of surgeries Hogan endured reads like a medical textbook of everything that can go wrong with the human body. He had both knees and both hips replaced, likely due to wear and tear from wrestling, with some of these procedures dating back over 20 years. He underwent multiple shoulder surgeries, probably from wrestling impacts, with his daughter Brooke mentioning that both shoulders were scoped, with one procedure complicated by MRSA requiring extensive recovery. The eye and abdominal operations add another layer to this medical nightmare. While specific details are sparse, these were likely related to wrestling injuries, with orbital socket fractures for eyes and potential hernias for abdominal issues being the most probable causes. Perhaps most tragic was how his physical deterioration was visible to anyone who looked closely. Hogan's height decreased from 6'7" to around 6'4", a 3-inch loss he attributed to spinal compression and the structural changes from multiple back surgeries. This wasn't just aging, this was the physical collapse of a human frame that had been pushed beyond its limits.
It's hard to explain. Like if I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm leaning on the counter brushing my teeth, I can't push away. So when I'm done brushing my teeth, I have to lean in like that and then pull back.
The daily reality of Hogan's pain was heartbreaking. He couldn't push a glass door open, couldn't straighten his arms out in the gym, and needed to lean against the counter just to brush his teeth. His morning routine consisted of 2 cups of coffee and 2 Tylenols, just to function, a far cry from the superhuman persona millions remembered. The alcohol component of his addiction often gets overlooked, but it was equally devastating. Hogan admitted to drinking a dozen beers after shows during his wrestling career, often consuming what he described as 3 Miller Lights and 2 Tylenols before matches, and probably 12 Miller Lights after. This continued for decades until New Year's Eve 2022, when he decided to quit after witnessing behaviors at a party he didn't condone. The transformation that followed his sobriety was remarkable, but also revealed how much damage had been done. By August 2023, he had lost 40 pounds, dropping from 300 to 260 pounds, joking that the last time I weighed this much I was in 9th grade. But this weight loss, while positive, also highlighted how alcohol had been masking deeper health issues. Perhaps most disturbing was how the wrestling industry normalized this level of self-destruction. Hogan revealed he wrestled 400 to 450 times a year during his prime, flying 300 days annually. The physical toll was immense, but the industry's attitude was essentially deal with it or get out.
You know, I'd go wrestle Andre the Giant in let's say, Baltimore Civic Center, and instead of the normal 18-foot ring, it would be a 22-foot boxing ring. It would be harder than the concrete. And Andre would go, "Don't go down." You know, which means if you fall down, you're not going to get back up.
The equipment Hogan wrestled on was often dangerous, with some rings being harder than concrete. Andre the Giant would warn him not to take bumps on certain rings to prevent injury, showing how even his peers knew the risks were extreme. The stem cell treatments Hogan tried represent another tragic chapter in his quest for relief. He went to Panama for 3 days of intensive stem cell therapy, but unlike many athletes who found success with these treatments, Hogan's body was too damaged to respond.
Well, I went down there to Panama for 3 days. You know, they hook you up IV-wise, and then locally they blast you all over the place, neck,
Right.
shoulders, everywhere. And after 3 days, you know, they would call me like 2 weeks later and say, "Hey, you know, so I feel the same." Then a month later they call me, "Feel the same." Then like 3 months later call me, nothing. You know, so I didn't didn't get anything from it.
The failure of stem cell therapy was particularly crushing because it represented his last hope for natural healing. As medical experts noted, his body was so compromised that it couldn't benefit from treatments that helped other athletes recover from similar injuries. What makes this story even more tragic is how Hogan's pain management evolved in his final years. He turned to CBD products, including potentially edibles, after being introduced to cannabis-based wellness by peers like Ric Flair and Mike Tyson. His brand, Immortal by Hulk Hogan, offered a range of products including hemp-derived pre-rolls, topicals, flower edibles, CBD, HHC, Delta-8, and Kratom.
And where do your edibles work into all of this?
For sleeping, for sleeping, because I don't like not to be normal, and clear-headed. So if I can't sleep or have a hard time sleeping, I'll wake up after 2 hours and bite 1.5 or something, and it just knocks me out like a baby.
The irony is heartbreaking. Here was a man who had been nearly killed by pharmaceutical drugs finding relief in natural alternatives, but by then the damage was too extensive to undo. The real tragedy of Hulk Hogan's health battles isn't just the pain he endured or the addiction he fought, it's how preventable so much of it was. From the unnecessary laser spine institute procedures to the dangerous fentanyl prescriptions, from the industry's acceptance of self-destruction to the lack of proper medical oversight, Hogan's suffering was enabled and prolonged by a system that put profits over people. But these health struggles were just one aspect of a complex legacy that includes both incredible achievements and devastating controversies that continue to define how Hulk Hogan is remembered. The complex legacy of a fallen icon. The final chapter of Hulk Hogan's story is perhaps the most complex and controversial of all. This isn't just about a wrestling legend who died too young. This is about a man whose legacy became so entangled with scandal, controversy, and personal failures that even his death couldn't escape the shadow of his past. To understand the complexity of Hogan's legacy, we need to start with his undeniable achievements in professional wrestling. Hogan won 12 world championships, including 6 WWF WWE titles and 6 WCW titles, and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame twice. He was the first wrestler to win consecutive Royal Rumble matches in 1990 and 1991, and headlined 8 of the first 9 WrestleMania events. His cultural impact extended far beyond the ring. At WrestleMania 3 on March 29, 1987, he body-slammed Andre the Giant in front of 93,173 fans at the Pontiac Silverdome, creating one of wrestling's most iconic moments. His match with Andre the Giant on February 5, 1988, on The Main Event, drew a record 33 million viewers, holding American television viewership records for wrestling. But beneath the yellow and red bandana lurked controversies that would eventually overshadow even his greatest triumphs. The most damaging scandal erupted in July 2015, when a leaked sex tape from 2007 revealed Hogan using racial slurs, including the N-word, while discussing his daughter's relationship with a black man. The recordings captured him stating, "I am a racist to a point, Nick." Words that instantly destroyed decades of goodwill. The immediate fallout was devastating. WWE terminated his contract on July 24, 2015, and removed all references to him from their website, including his Hall of Fame status. Merchandise was pulled from retailers like Target and Walmart, and Mattel ceased producing his action figures. The same tape also revealed homophobic slurs, with Hogan using terms like big fag while discussing a reality show storyline.
I was at the lowest point of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over a situation that happened between her and her boyfriend, and I had no idea I was being taped. I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself.
Hogan's attempts at redemption were mixed at best. He issued multiple public apologies, appearing on ABC's Good Morning America to express remorse and deny being a racist. He was reinstated into the WWE Hall of Fame on July 15, 2018, after what WWE described as numerous apologies and working with young people, but the decision remained controversial. The racism scandal was part of a larger pattern of controversies that plagued Hogan throughout his career. In 1994, during Vince McMahon's trial for steroid distribution, Hogan testified under immunity, admitting to using anabolic steroids for 13 years to get big. He revealed that about 80% of the wrestlers he knew in the 1980s used steroids, commonly known as juice or gas. The steroid use may have contributed to his eventual health problems. Scientific studies show that anabolic steroids can lead to heart disease, reduced heart function, and increased risk of heart attacks, aligning with Hogan's ultimate cause of death from cardiac arrest. Another significant controversy involved his relationship with Jesse Ventura and the failed unionization effort in the 1980s. Ventura attempted to form a wrestlers' union ahead of WrestleMania 2 in 1986, but Hogan informed Vince McMahon, leading to McMahon thwarting the effort and eventually firing Ventura.
And when my attorney said, Mr. McMahon, has there ever been a union in wrestling? And Vince said, no. He said, has anyone ever tried to? And Vince said, well, I think Jesse Ventura spouted his mouth off about it once before. And my attorney said, did you hear Mr. Ventura? No. Well, then how do you know he did? With no hesitation, Vince went, Hulk Hogan told me.
Ventura has never forgiven this betrayal, stating in recent interviews that he learned of Hogan's role through sworn deposition testimony from Vince McMahon, where McMahon revealed without hesitation that Hulk Hogan told me about the unionization effort. The sex tape scandal that exposed his racism was itself part of a complex legal battle. The tape, recorded in 2006 to 2007, involved Hogan with Heather Clem, the wife of radio personality Bubba the Love Sponge. When Gawker Media published excerpts in 2012, Hogan filed a lawsuit that ultimately resulted in a $140 million judgment, leading to Gawker's bankruptcy. The case was later revealed to be funded by billionaire Peter Thiel, who had a personal vendetta against Gawker. Family controversies added another layer to Hogan's troubled legacy. His son, Nick's 2007 car accident, where Nick drove under the influence and severely injured passenger John Graziano, led to legal settlements and public scrutiny. His divorce from Linda Hogan in 2009 was highly contentious, with Linda receiving 70% of liquid assets. The final years of Hogan's life were marked by political controversy as well. He endorsed Donald Trump, speaking at the 2024 Republican National Convention, which reignited debates about his past racist remarks. His political activities divided fans further, with some seeing it as evidence he hadn't truly changed. Reports suggest that in his final months, Hogan was being run into the ground by his management team, with a grueling schedule promoting Real American Beer and his new wrestling league, Real American Freestyle Wrestling. People close to Hogan expressed concerns about the strain, though others saw it as his choice to stay active for fans. Hulk Hogan's legacy will forever be complicated. Part inspiration, part cautionary tale, part tragedy. He showed us what was possible when someone dedicated their life to entertainment and athletic achievement, but he also showed us the terrible price that such dedication can exact: